I'm here to welcome everybody to our Friday Mingle Mastermind. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be having a really fun conversation with some of my favorite people, and we're going to be talking about how to have a great internship program. And I get this question a lot from Fashion Mingle members who, want to understand how to have a internship program. And I've actually worked with interns for probably about 10 years off and on. So I've, made a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot of lessons. And so we're going to have a really good conversation about it today with Eurydice.
That's the Italian version.
Eurydice Sanchez. I knew I was going to blow it. Okay, let's start that over. Eurydice Sanchez of LIM and Andrea Kennedy, who also is a professor at LIM and has her own business, Fashion Decks, and then Erica Yanus. And so we'll get back to that in just a minute. And Beth's going to introduce you to the rest of the panel.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Smith. I'm Fashion Mingle's CMO. Welcome. I'm glad you're all here today. Please leave questions. I know we have a lot of students on. We have a lot of our Fashion Mingle members, so please feel free to leave questions in the comments, and we'll try and get to them at the end. Okay, let's go ahead with introducing the panelists. First, I'm going to start with one of my favorite people, Erica. She has been an intern in the past with Fashion Mingle, and now she's our content manager, and she has been instrumental in helping with Student Mingle. She's really been the brainchild behind coming up with a lot of the ideas, because as you can tell, I'm a little past that stage right now. So we've really relied on Erica in so many areas of Fashion Mingle. So welcome, Erica. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Beth. I'm good. I'm excited to be on this side of it. Usually I watch them all every week and go over them again. So it'll be interesting watching myself this time.
There you go. Okay, great. Let's see who we have. Kat Schuller. Kat, how are you doing? What is going on this week with you?
Yeah, I'm just Runway the Railway is still going strong. I'm doing a lot of good new ideas with it. I came to Hack Fashion Week, and I'm learning this virtual world. The pandemic pivot is paying off, and we're doing some great things. And I think we're going to have some good announcements coming up soon. And we just went through climate reality project leadership training, and so now I'm a leader, and I'm just it was a great time. It was a wonderful virtual event. We went from 1,200, who could have gone, to 12,000 people who are now going to be part of the climate leadership program with climate reality. So it was very exciting. I learned a lot, and I'm going to work with the Sustainable Development Goals to just make them household terms now, household words. So I'm excited. And Text World was a great experience too, virtually. So, this virtual world is sinking in.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That sounds really exciting. You always have so many things going on. I don't know how you do it. You probably never sleep. Well, that's great.
I do.
Okay, let's see. We have Dale Noelle of True Model Management. Hey, Dale, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me, Beth and Melissa. I'm Dale Noelle. I'm the CEO and founder of True Model Management, and we're headquartered in New York, but work around the world. And like Kat and others on the panel, we've been promoting the virtual world for a while now. We're very happy that it's finally coming to light and people are adopting. All morning I was on calls about avatars and having models represented virtually. So it's good that we can all keep the business moving while we're still quarantined and living at a different pace right now. But True represents all sizes, shapes, ethnicities, always has been diverse and fully supports sustainability and inclusivity as well. And we're very happy to be part of Fashion Mingle. It's a great community to meet people in our industry.
Thanks, Dale. Okay, we have Shirn Movahed. We're very fortunate to have Shirn on today. Not only is she our attorney, but she is going to help us understand the do's and don'ts of working with interns, and that's a really important topic. So welcome, Shirn.
Thanks, ladies. Great to be here as always. And yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing essentially, you know, the legalities and breaking it down to make sure that the interns know what their rights are. And of course, also helping small businesses that want to hire interns know what they need to actually provide those interns. So looking forward to that and also hearing from the interns as well. So thank you for having me.
That's great. Good stuff. Okay, finally we have Dee Rivera. Dee, hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dee Rivera, the CEO of DCG Media Group, and I'm excited to be talking about this topic. DCG has always worked with interns from Fashion Week since the beginning of when we started, which was over 10 years ago, and I'm very grateful for the interns that I've always had, so I'm looking forward to this conversation and yeah, learning the feedback on the other side. So thank you.
That's great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for our wonderful panelists for always being on here. So let's get started and let's talk. So first we're gonna learn a little bit more about Eurydice Sanchez, who is the Assistant Director of Professional Development and Advising at LIM College. And she's also an adjunct professor in the areas of fashion forecasting, fashion history, and global attire and sustainability. And then Andrea Kennedy is also a professor at LIM. And she's actually been a designer and merchandiser at Ann Taylor, Bob Mackie, Calvin Klein, among others. And she is the co-producer of the wonderful biannual Sustainable Fashion Forum, which is held in New York and LA. And we're a part of that, your November session. So thank you for including us. And then Andrea also owns a company called Fashion Decks, which actually supplies textbook, well, I don't know if they're necessarily textbooks, but they're educational books about manufacturing and the garment industry. Is that right, Andrea?
Yeah, well, we do. Books are about a third of our business. So directories and tools, but we're an information company for sourcing, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I know. I see you guys always at Text World on Resource Row, and you always look like you have such a fascinating collection of books that are probably hard to find. So wonderful. So let's get started. Okay. So one of the first things we want to talk about is basically like how to just create an internship program for your business. And I know with Fashion Mingle, we've worked with LIM for many years with interns. You know, we're familiar with how you how you go to the website and you set yourself up with as a business. But Eurydice, why don't you walk us through how a business can best work with LIM to start using your interns?
So working with LIM specifically, you know, I think it's just, again, reaching out to our department, and we can definitely, you know, help set you up in our system to get exposure to students. And we certainly do, you know, sometimes we promote on, of course, Instagram and things like that. So we do a lot of social media promotion, but it's really just kind of coming to us and having that first communication, essentially. But I would really say to businesses in terms of, you know, it's about really creating meaningful work. And that's so important to students. And I think that really is helps to be very attractive to students, because some of the best programs out there offer a lot of value. And value can be added in so many different ways. I think even, you know, the fact that Erica probably can speak to that too, that she was an intern for your company and now she's, you know, working at the company. So obviously there was a lot of value that she got from working there. And, you know, we do talk to, I think, really kind of intentionally creating a program at the start and thinking about how you can offer value. So whether it's, you know, through providing mentors for interns, you know, offering ways to have community for interns. So maybe they have happy hours or social hours for the interns so that they can really get to know each other and have, you know, share common experiences. Also doing things like, you know, possibly doing lunch and learns even with, you know, leaders and having access to leaders in the company. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get creative and unique, I think, about offering value. And obviously, once you do that and create that meaningful experience for a student, they're going to be much more engaged in the internship itself. And then they're also going to promote that to others and promote your company to others. So again, it really goes back to that value proposition and what you can offer. And then again, you know, I'm happy to speak to anybody. Sorry, there's a fly that just went by. So I'm always happy to, you know, speak to anybody, and I can certainly, you have my email address, but happy to share that as well to connect with anybody that really wants to become a part of our internship program.
Oh, okay, wonderful. And yeah, you can also, there's a chat at the bottom of the screen, and you can enter your email address in there if you'd like people to reach out to you directly. You too, Andrea. What I'd love to know, like, what do you, when you hear back from the interns, what are some of the most common jobs they're doing for companies in the fashion industry? Is there kind of like a standard job that companies like to hire interns for, and that is really, you know, turns out to be a successful internship?
I mean, it really just depends on the business. You know, we have so many students that are interested in things like buying and merchandising. So those are very popular. We have a lot of students, interested in event planning, styling. So it really just kind of depends on, and certainly marketing. I would say marketing is a huge, you know, that's really kind of a growing area. And certainly with what's happened with COVID, you know, we are seeing, in terms of positions that are open still out there, they're definitely focused more on marketing, social media, and then of course e-commerce as a growing area within the industry. So those are definitely growing areas, but there's, you know, so many other areas, and I think up and coming industries to explore as well.
Okay, very cool. So Andrea, you work with students all the time because you're a professor at LIM, but you've also used them in your business. Can you tell us about like your experiences with bringing on interns and, you know, just like what some of the challenges are to make it go successfully?
So we do bring on interns at Fashion Decks, and then also our customers come to us often for interns, as well as a lot of companies reach out to the professors before the internship office because we have relationships with them. We're all working in the industry, so they'll come to us often for an intern. And I feel like the professors at LIM, at least, and probably all schools, actually do a lot of placement where the internship office doesn't. They're, you know, you have your virtual job board and they'll coach students towards it, but we get calls and then we kind of like, okay, you need someone who knows how to do assortment plans and is great with Excel or can do CAD and sketch flats and do tech packs. Then we will find those students for you, as well as share it with the internship office so the greater community can see it, and then you'll get both sides. But in terms of Fashion Decks interns, we have had interns from multiple schools, Parsons, LIM, we have an LIM right now, FIT, Drexel, over the many years. And I think the most important thing is, I remember when I was an intern, my least favorite thing was having to show up and ask someone, what do you want me to do today? Right? Like that is the worst. And I've committed this was like 20 years ago when I hired my first intern, no intern is ever going to feel like they don't have value, that their job isn't relevant and important to the company and meaningful to them in their future and life and us. And so I would always make sure they had like a duty that they took care of, that was, you know, that they could kind of run like any other department, of course, you know, with guidance and support. But so that's one thing we always do. And we try and have conversations with our interns saying constantly, are you feeling that this is important to you? Are you feeling needed and all of that? And I will say that Fashion Dex has always given like a travel and a lunch stipend, because we feel that, again, back to when all of us were interns, it's really hard when it's an unpaid internship to, you know, get there and still eat and all of that when you're not being paid and it's only for credit. So we've always done that. And now that it's virtual, we're still doing a lunch stipend. We've omitted the transportation, like the monthly Metro cards and whatnot. But so
well, that's really nice. And I love what you said about making sure it's meaningful for the interns. Erica, let's bring you in on this, because, you know, you've interned with us for a long time. You're actually, now you're managing our interns. And so you're actually talking with them one-on-one. And I mean, we've actually seen like, wow, you know, these interns, they really want to work. And so it's been a real challenge to actually be prepared enough to give them the amount of work they want. Tell us how the experience went. Don't say anything mean, okay? No, you can be honest. It's okay.
My experience at Fashion Mingle, obviously interning was great, or I wouldn't still be working with you. I think it definitely helped that it was right before Fashion Week, when Fashion Week was going on. So I know I got a lot of experiences with the Rossi fashion show and then the networking party, and then working with Dee at CoverGirl. It's just like, I'm marketing, but I got all kinds of experiences.
You got a crash course.
Yeah, really. So that was definitely helpful and made it more meaningful, because I was learning things that even aren't marketing, but they always come in handy. And I think managing the new interns now, I try and keep all that in mind of kind of what do you like to do, but if you want to learn new things, here's a project for you. I have people helping me with social media that were going to be journalism interns, but sure, help me out. Like, I think that's just great with what Fashion Mingle's doing, is because some internships are really like, they put you in a box of like, this is your task, that's it. But at Fashion Mingle, I think we do like everything. Like, you're on every task that's needed. So I think that's actually really helpful. And you've done a good job with that.
Well, you know, from the perspective of someone who's, you know, who's has a startup, you understand that when you're in an entrepreneurial type company, you know, everyone has to wear a lot of hats. And so I do feel, you know, I really do love giving interns lots of different experiences, because you never know, you know, when you're actually going to figure out like, hey, I'm actually really good at this and I didn't know it. And so that's what an internship is all about, really, is just really discovering what you're good at, what you like to do, so that you're better prepared when you go into your career. And then I always try to talk to, you know, tell the students right up front that we're going to give you resume ready projects, so that you can put it on your resume that I managed this project. I mean, we try to give them ownership so that they can feel creative. We love to get their feedback. We love for them to try new things. And you know, that's what's been so fun, having Erica and her sidekick Stephanie, because they both worked with us for quite a while now. And we were a good team during Fashion Week, and that was a tough week. But Erica and Stephanie were just amazing troopers and just worked really hard. And it was a really fun experience. So Eurydice, I'd like to know, do you have any, when businesses are interviewing the interns, do you have any particular questions that you think it's really important that the business owner asks the intern to make sure it's a good fit?
Yeah, I come at this too because I was in the industry. So, and I also I interviewed many interns there. So I come at kind of from both sides of it. And I think, you know, one of the standard questions that to me is a really strong question always is, you know, why are you here? Why are you interested in this position? Because it kind of tells me two things. That A, they've done their research about the company, which, you know, we really talk to them a lot about doing your research. And then also it shows me, even though I'm asking about the role or the position, I really want to know, you know, what's their interest in the company and what drew them to the company, because they could be interviewing for 5 different marketing roles at different companies, but why my company? Because I want somebody that wants to be here, you know, at my company. I think another strong question to ask is to think about, you know, what's an accomplishment that they're really proud of. Because I think that's an empowering question in the sense that it doesn't, if they don't have a lot of work experience, it doesn't have to be from that. It can really be anything. So it could be, you know, a school project even. It could be, you know, extracurricular. It could be a side hustle even. But something that they're proud of, I think really also gives me more insight into who they are and how they would really fit in with the company too. And then the last question I think I would ask is, you know, how does this role for them align with their career goals? Because again, you know, even if you're a sophomore, a freshman, I want to know, you know, are you really, is there thought behind this? And are you thinking already about your goals, you know, your future goals and dreams and aspirations? Because that kind of speaks, I think, too, to a little bit of the work ethic and just the fact that they're, you know, they are being intentional about it. So those are 3 questions that I always like to ask.
Okay, that's great. And Andrea, you've been interviewing interns for your business for years. What are some of the questions that you found that really help you figure out that this is the best person to hire?
Well, I look a lot at, of course I ask questions, but I also look at body language and make sure, you know, that interns are kind of giving us eye contact and not slouching and haven't arrived late, drinking coffee, eating a bagel. I've had interns showing up like eating breakfast during the, so, I mean, I'm kind of also looking at those things as well as, you know, even what they're wearing, that, you know, it's not like a cut off midriff top, because it's a professional atmosphere. So I look at those things as well as also, I know how uncomfortable it is being an intern interviewee and really just wanting to hear, not knowing if they're going to, what they're going to do for the rest of their life, but they want a great position, but they also want to know, they want questions about money answered. And I know that most students are uncomfortable asking those questions because they've told me that, you know, how do I ask if it's paid or unpaid? That never came up. And I think money conversations are hard for all ages, particularly when you're 18, 19, and 20. So, I mean, from the interviewer side, making sure you let them know right away if it is paid or unpaid, how many hours it is right away from the start, whether they'll have a lunch break, because it's really difficult. Interns have come to me at LIM all the time and said, I've even had students text me like, I got here at 9, it's 3 o'clock. Do you think I can ask to take a lunch break? So I think it's important to be upfront and tell all of these details, because students are not always able to have those conversations on their first internship. So that wasn't answering your question, but
actually that was really great advice. I never really thought about that. I mean, we've kind of always ran a pretty loose ship, you know, and we just assume people can feel comfortable to do whatever they need to do. But I didn't really think about the fact that maybe they are hungry and they need to be invited to eat.
And also, you know, if you hire an intern, bring them into the meeting, let them have a seat at the table, let them listen, because this is a learning experience for them. And sometimes they'll have great ideas afterwards. So, you know, I just think that make sure for them it is this great learning experience, because it is a win-win. The more that you include them, the more they give to you, and the more they say to other people, it's great to work there. You don't want interns saying, don't intern there, to the next crop coming up.
Well, and I did realize, like, since we're doing all virtual this summer, that they seem shy to speak up in a group setting in Zoom. So what I've started doing is asking them to just reach out to me directly over email if they want, to volunteer for a particular project or they have an idea. Yeah, so that's understandable. It's it's even hard as an adult to sometimes be in a group setting and feel comfortable to speak up. So
Right.
those kinds of things we have to remember. Erica, first of all, I want to let everybody know kind of the process that Fashion Mingle does, because I tend to like over organize things, but I feel like it's worked really well. What generally happens, like we have an application, we have a section on our website that has the different internship positions that we like to fill. And then we have an application they fill out, which asks, like some general questions of, where you're going to school, where you're going to be located, the questions like what Andrea said, like, why do you want to work here? What are you looking for in your career and so forth. But then, once they fill out that application, what I found that even if I interviewed them right away, sometimes they just kind of flake out. And that's, I've felt like that's, a common problem with working with interns is that you put a lot of effort in the beginning to get an intern, onboarded, but then they just can disappear, And so what I ended up doing, which has worked really well this summer, especially since it's a virtual situation, is once they fill out the application and told us what they're looking for, then we would give them one small project that would, and then give them a deadline, and then have them, and then we see, like, okay, did they meet the deadline? What's the quality of work? They made that effort. And then once they get that back and we're satisfied with it, then we have them on we do an interview, on Zoom now. And it's worked out really great because every single intern this summer has just been stellar. And of course, we did have people that applied that did not complete the test project. We had a lot of people that never made it that way. So to me, that showed that, okay, that is my screening process right there. Will they take initiative? I mean, that's the most important thing. So Erica, give us some, insight as to what you see with the interns that are filling out the application, and give us some tips from an intern's point of view about, like, what are the best ways to show that you're a candidate that is worthy of an interview.
Well, obviously receiving all the test projects back, it's great that Melissa's really organized because we have like a color-coded system and everything. Really everyone does like a variety of work. Like some people are so creative, write the best blogs, show the best photos, and then some people are very analytical. So it's really great that we get such like a variety of kind of test projects back, and that shows in all the interns we currently have. From an intern's point of view, I can only speak for myself I don't feel I'm the most creative in terms of like, I'm not the best with Photoshop or things like that, but I think my writing's really good. I think my social media skills are good. I think I have like a good brain in terms of marketing techniques. So like I use those as my strengths to kind of get an interview. Like I have this idea, I have that idea, and like I speak out at the right moments. Obviously, I've interned for Fashion Mingle for a year, so I'm a lot more comfortable. But in the beginning, it was definitely nerve-wracking, and you don't really know when you should speak up, when you should kind of give your ideas to make it seem like you know what you're talking about, maybe, like, because not everyone's going to have the best idea, even if they think it's a great idea. So I definitely think it takes some getting comfortable, but I think you should just use what you have to your strengths. Because if you are really good at Photoshop, like my sidekick, Stephanie, it really like comes through and you can really be used in the right way. Because I know some interns thought writing may have been their strength and now they're working on social media instead. So it kind of takes a minute to come through, but I think getting an interview, just do your best work and you will. Like, I feel, especially at Fashion Mingle, we give everybody a chance as long as they do what's asked of them on the application. So.
Yeah, and I do love, you know, getting ideas from the interns, because I think, like, and Andrea, you probably experience this too, like you're in your business, kind of in your little box, and it's just super refreshing to hear ideas, especially from younger people, about how they think that you should be promoting. I mean, and Erica's just been amazing with how many great ideas that she's had and the insight that she'll bring to a conversation. Andrea, do you want to share some insight on that as well?
I agree that the voice of the intern is so important, and their point of view is so important in terms of particularly social media and whatnot, but language also. Sometimes, I'm trying to remember what it was, it just happened last week, that they giggled when I said something, and I realized, like, oh, it's like, must sound kind of old school, and you know, so like we should take that word out of our marketing, and right now I can't remember what it was. And we did, and we made it a little bit more kind of younger, and we got more engagement on that. So I definitely think you should listen and give your intern a voice and make sure they're invited to speak.
Yeah,
I think that's so important. We hear that a lot from students that are interning, that, you know, that's one thing that definitely makes them feel so much more engaged and active, you know, wanting to contribute more to the company when they actually have a voice and people listen to that voice. And to what both of you said, I think we have to remember, you know, they have wonderful ideas. And so it's just, I think, creating an environment as well where people are, you know, Erica said, definitely, you know, it's about becoming more comfortable, but creating that environment where they do eventually feel comfortable enough to speak up. I think that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm
well, let's bring in Shireen, because I want to talk about some of the legal issues surrounding internships. And I know, like, New York actually has really strict rules, whereas that's not the case in probably 49 other states. So Shireen, why don't you give us an overview? And you're muted right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's important to know that when a business is looking into hiring an intern, which, as everyone has spoken about, is a great way of, you know, being able to add some refreshing ideas into your business. But you have to remember, you do have to provide a benefit to that intern. So, you know, generally speaking, under the, you know, Fair Labor Standards Act, every employee is entitled to pay. That is, except for interns. Interns are not considered employees. So that means unpaid interns are legal so long as they meet what's called the primary beneficiary test, which essentially is saying that the intern needs to be the one that is primary benefiting from the role that you're creating for them. This is not a let me get someone to do my grunt work for free situation. You really have to create meaningful experience for that intern that would be equivalent to what they would have received at their educational institution. So for this test, there's 7 different factors, and, you know, under the federal guidelines, these are just guidelines, right? Making sure that the intern is aware that it's going to be uncompensated, the employment, so that's clear, that the training is going to be comparable to training that they would receive at their educational institution, that it's currently tied to what the intern is doing. So, you know, if it's a marketing role or whatever that they're, you know, currently learning in their institution, as well as making sure that if there is a credit program, that you do accommodate that, you know, that credit program with their school. And then there's that they're receiving, you know, essentially there's a specific period of time, of course, that you've provided for them that they're going to be receiving this learning, and also that the work complements the employer's work, doesn't replace it. So you can't just tell the intern, okay, this is your job, you're the only one responsible for this. There has to be oversight, there has to be supervision. Of course, there has to be other employees that are being paid to make sure that that work is completed, so that the intern doesn't essentially feel like they're being paid to do somebody else's role. And it also, to be clear, that internship does not provide entitlement to a job at the end of it. So that needs to also be clear. And, these factors, again, are guidelines. That doesn't mean that, you can have all of these and still be considered an employee. It all depends on how you actually operate and making sure that, that the employee is being enriched by the work environment and the things that they're learning. And as Melissa mentioned, New York has, on top of the federal regulations, additional requirements, which does require interns to have be linked to their accreditation at their school. So there has to be a program in order for them to be considered unpaid. Otherwise, you will have to pay your interns, which is right now the minimum wage is, I believe, $15. So if you cannot meet those requirements, you're going to have to pay those interns. A great way of trying to make sure that if you're a business and you're looking to hire interns to help you, but also enrich the learning of the intern, some things that you may want to consider putting down, and obviously having everyone sign, is an understanding that there's going to be no compensation, or if there is going to be a compensation, also who's going to be supervising the intern, keeping a track of all the hours of the intern, obviously offering credit for the intern, and also making sure, and this is another key thing to New York's rule, is making sure that the work is transferable. So it's not specific to your business, that it's a general learning that they're going to be receiving, and not just, doing your particular task for your particular company. So these are things that you can, you should definitely think about in making sure that you are complying with the rules, because obviously if someone comes in and believes that your intern is actually an employee, you can imagine what you'll have to face in terms of penalties and compensation for that employee, for that intern that would be considered an employee. So things to consider.
Okay, that's good. Eurydice, do you have any, words of caution or insight into the, about the paid internships versus unpaid, and have you seen any problems come up with that?
I prefer to let the lawyer speak to that. But I will say, definitely paid internships, obviously, if you can offer that, again, it does offer more value. It's a value for the student. And we have so many students that now, they work sometimes full-time to support themselves. Then we require they have an internship, and then they're going to school. So there's a lot going on in their lives. And so I think, being able to offer the paid internship where you can is just, it's a better proposition for them.
Absolutely. Let's get started talking with our panelists and bringing in Dee. You've got a question?
Yeah. To your point, Shireen, I know that I have all my interns and employees sign an NDA. So their skills are transferable, but my contacts are not. And so I just want to make sure that that is something you plug in, because let's say they go to another PR company, or they go to a, you know what I mean? Like, it's important that that you're protected as well. Because you got to do that.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, as Dee mentioned, I mean, whenever you're having anyone work with your business, whether it's internally or externally, you definitely want to include confidentiality clauses in there to protect your trade secrets and all the things that they're going to be exposed to, including your clients and anyone else that obviously you're going to be speaking with and to. So just because you're an intern, even if you're unpaid, doesn't mean that you get to get around those, those confidentiality provisions. So definitely I would suggest having, a full, agreement with your intern. It would be an internship agreement as opposed to an employee agreement, but it would definitely include all of those main provisions in terms of confidentiality and trade secrets. Yes.
Okay, great. And Kat?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about day of kind of tasks and activities, because we have a lot of volunteers that come backstage, and it's a lot of chaos. And for anyone doing that kind of a volunteer where there's 25 volunteers, 30 volunteers for a backstage, I would suggest having like one of the interns that you have on staff manage that, well, those volunteers, because I can't do it, the producer can't do it, but there needs to be a point person that someone reports to, so that if anything breaks out or whatever, there's a point person that they can go to. And also what we do at the end is have an evaluation that the intern can give us about what their experience was, because it's not just one way. And we've learned a lot about what we could do better, and it's a way for them to kind of speak up. And we've really grown a lot with our intern program in terms of what we give them, and the volunteers too. So our interns and volunteers, there's a lot more volunteers than we have interns, but volunteers are a great way to get to become an intern because those volunteers can become sparklers and say, if you have anything going on afterwards, I'd love to intern. And so those volunteers have turned into interns. So, if you go on someone's site and see a volunteer application too, that's a great way to get your foot in the door for the internship.
I love that, Kat, you're bringing up the fact that you're asking for feedback. So Erica, can you put that on the list for next week? We'll work on getting that. We'll make assignments while we're in.
You have to take it.
Shireen, can I ask you something? Do volunteers, I know when we have volunteers for DCG, we have them sign something. And the reason we do that is because I had a bad experience at one of my fashion shows about maybe 8 years ago. We had a volunteer. She was like the most amazing volunteer I've ever met. But and Melissa knows me very well. I'm a paper girl. I have everybody sign something just because people are crazy. So that being said, Shireen, I had her sign a confidentiality agreement. Little did I know that she started a PR company and then put all my work as her work.
Wow.
In her website without asking, hey, can I share this as my portfolio? Or can I share this that this is the project that I worked on? No, she made it look like this is what she produced. So I called my lawyer. I gave her 24 hours to take it down. She took it down. But, if I didn't have that confidential, she could have had usage, and God knows what the girl was capable of. That I just think that that's important too.
Right. Well, Dee, I think you're the poster child for what all small businesses should be doing, because you're learning. You've obviously learned the hard way, but now you're being able to implement those lessons to prevent things from happening to you. And that's exactly what did transpire for you. And as you mentioned, if you're a business and you're just, casually engaging people and bringing people on board to your business, you're essentially exposing yourself to having all of that hard-earned, work that you've put into your brand just dissipate to someone else who's willing to just take it as their own. So, and it's harder to prove when you don't have agreements what the understanding is of the parties. So absolutely, you want to have, you know, I call it my drawer of agreements, you know, NDAs, confidentiality sitting there. So whenever, and waivers too, especially now with COVID, I've been preparing COVID waivers for independent contractors and anyone that's going to be working on site at, you know, with your company. So it's really important to make sure that you have, you know, these agreements in place to protect yourself and the person that, you know, that's working with you as well.
Yeah, Erica, could you add that to the list for next week too? Thank you.
COVID waivers, COVID waivers. I wrote that down.
Okay, well, let's see. Oh yeah, we've got Dell. So you work with True Model Management. You're the owner of that, and so your agency is all about booking models and stuff. But you use a lot of interns. What kind of work do interns do at True Model Management?
At True Model Management, types of work, everything from photography to styling to social media and marketing. We had it for accounting and bookkeeping, event planning. So we started with interns quite a while back and have learned a lot over the years. I'm also an instructor at FIT, and that's where I was introduced early on to the internship program. And from there, worked with many other schools all around the country. And it's been a great experience with everyone, but they've all been very different. Some are very lenient and flexible. It's just like, oh, here's a list, pick one, and you don't really know that much about them. You get a resume, you never meet them. Oh, they're flying in from Kentucky and they're staying all summer, and you're just like, okay, they're great, they're here, you know. So yeah, one year we had like 4 from one school out of state, and they were all about events and more of the creative networking side and entrepreneurial. So they would come to the office every day, they'd be in meetings, work on different things, and I agree with everyone who had said that they should have a voice, because 100%, and I love Kat's term sparklers, because they really do bring light. The right interns bring a lot of light and vision, and it's like a mutual exchange of knowledge and ideas. And just because we're the mentors, you know, I feel like I learned so much from every intern too, in ways that I never thought I would. So sharing knowledge, you know, it's a two-way street and everyone benefits. But I did find over the years that I love that Melissa's so organized, and I feel like to do it properly, you really need to put a lot of planning into it, because it is a big job to prepare a really beneficial, you know, like Sharon was saying, that, you know, you have to bring value. And it's not as easy as we thought it would be at first. We're like, okay, great, we're gonna have someone to help us with a lot of things, you know. And then it's like, whoa, you know, some come and they're very targeted. We try to have meetings with school advisors. Some give us questionnaires, some don't. The evaluation process, I think, is amazing, and feedback, you know, before, during, and after, because managing expectations is huge. Like someone said about planning, you know, food, lunchtime and things like that. So I do think there should be set hours and have like everything outlined and written down, but with the disclaimer that we can be flexible and, you know, fluid as things come up, because some are very targeted and it has to stick exactly to, you know, their major or whatever it is, and others are just trying to figure it out and give them a little bit of everything. So we've had a little bit of both, but I definitely think that planning ahead and making sure that you are aligned with that student and you can provide value to them is key. So, and with you saying, Dee, about I also would add, and Sharon could say what the details are in legal terms, but like a non-circumvent, because sometimes they're in meetings and working on projects where you're building like a new client, or some of them come in and be like, oh, I want to learn to be an entrepreneur and network, and I want to learn exactly how an agency runs inside and out. And they're privy to all this, you know, non-public information. And then they're like, oh, this was a sticking point for that client. So then like, I'm going to go and, you know, just take it away. Like it's unfortunately happened to Dee, but looks like she learned very well and she's very prepared now. So.
I'm a master now.
Yeah.
like Jedi. I got Jedi skills.
Yep.
I would like to piggyback off of what Dale said in terms of all the time planning. Just realize if you decide you want an intern and you haven't had one before, that there is time, not just in the planning, but you know, every time they're there and making sure, so it does involve your time for sure. And then one other thing is you really have to be like aware of the semester dates, right? Like, you know, I just got a call yesterday, oh, we could use a summer intern right now, but I didn't even need to ask Eurydice because I know that like it's kind of late to start an internship now if they want it to be for credit, because it has to be a certain amount of weeks. But Eurydice can tell you exactly, but all of that. And then one other thing I want to say is just, again, I speak to a lot of students. I do help place students, even though I'm not part of the internship office, but we often get the jobs and send them to students. Is don't just send them for errands. You know, there are still a lot of companies, some of them quite large and well known, that will ask students to go get coffee, to pick up lunch. And while you're at it, can you pick me up coffee, even though they're doing something for the company? And maybe the student doesn't even have enough money to pick them up coffee, you know, and even though it's coming going to be reimbursed, it's just like, just realize, you know, and think back when we were all that age and didn't always have that extra.
Right.
I think, yeah, just to kind of tag on to that, I think a couple things that people have said, you know, again, it's setting really clear expectations up front. The more organized you can be, especially in your communication, like providing communication guidelines, what's the preferred form of communication, how often do you have meetings, you know, all of that does take pre-planning. And then, as everyone has said, you know, you have to be present when they're there. And, you know, there might be certain meeting times that you have. But again, just recognizing too, that all of that goes back into setting them up for success, which then creates more success for you at the end of it. And that's, you know, again, it's that beneficial relationship. So the more you can kind of, and Melissa, you know, you said about the feedback, and that's what we constantly say. And we even tell students, you know, if you're not getting feedback, try to ask for that, because feedback is so important along the way and at specific touch points. But, you know, just as feedback is important for your business, it's also important for the student too. So definitely, you know, it's creating this relationship really that's beneficial for both sides.
Yeah, that is really great. The feedback needs to be a two-way street for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up that I found has worked really well when we're talking about interns that are here for a set period of time to do school credit for a semester is I actually create a project plan in Google Docs, and then and I put like all the links to it and kind of like what's the goal of the project, here's the steps of the project, and then that way if I need to pass it off to another intern next semester, that work is already done for me. And, you know, and then I can also actually go in and update it to say like, okay, well, we got this part of the project done, but, and also things like, well, I learned that I need to add these, you know, steps as well. So that takes a lot of time on the front end, but I feel like it helps me. I don't know, Erica, do you feel like that's been helpful to you or the other interns?
I think it is, especially because since I manage the interns, Melissa makes the projects and then sends it to the intern, and I have to just know every project that everyone's doing. So sometimes I have to look back and be like, what was their assignment again? Like, what are they supposed to be? Because I get them all mixed in my head. So it's definitely helpful to me because I'm like, I know what's expected of them due to what Melissa wrote up. And sometimes we use that same spreadsheet to give to like 5 different interns at a time because we can keep it very generalized that everyone knows their role, and that really helps as well. And Google Drive is just so easy because you just share it with everyone.
Yeah, I really recommend, if you're not using Google Drive for your documents and your spreadsheets, you should, because then the students can access it. But then the cool thing, like you can give a student access, but then when they leave, you can actually turn that access off. And so then, you know, you're like Dee, like you're saying, like, you know, like, you know, you have all of these contacts in spreadsheets, and, you know, you're giving out these contacts to, for the students to work on a project. And so if it's in a Google spreadsheet, you know, once the internship is over, you just remove their access, and then that's a little bit more protection for, you know, your private information.
Yeah, and I did want to say to your point, Melissa, that planning I think is so important. Like, I literally every night plan something specific for my assistant. She knows exactly what to do every single day, what time she starts, what time she finishes, what time she needs to send her invoice, what time she needs to do her log, what time she takes her break. I am that specific because that makes me sane. Even with my intern, same thing. And I just feel like a lot of things get done when I put in the work to make sure that they know what they're doing. Because like I think Andrea said, what am I gonna do today? I hate that question. I'm like, the girls that work for me know they could never ask that question because they know. Now they could ask me, okay, I want to understand this project. That's fine, but don't ever tell me you don't know what to do because I gave it to you on a very specific email. And another thing is, like, when I was interning, this was a long time ago, I was doing everything plus getting coffee plus walking the dog. Okay. When I was working in a magazine, fashion assistant intern. And I said, if I ever get an intern, I'm never going to have my intern do that. And to this day, I have not. Because I want to make sure that my girls feel like they're the boss, like hands on, you're in charge, and I put them in it. I don't like tippy toe around them. I was like, the only way you're gonna learn is if you roll up your sleeve and get in the mix. And I've had every intern that has ever worked for me, the good ones, have amazing jobs. Like they're like doing amazing things because they learned from Dee, the guru. Like I put them in it. And I was like, if I have to work hard, you're going to work hard. You know what I mean? Like if I got to clean, you're going to clean. If I got to do backstage and clean the garbage, so are you. I'm not going to ask for something that I wouldn't do myself.
Yeah, that's really great. That's super. So Beth, do we have some questions from our attendees? Oh, you're on mute.
We do. Where do you get interns? And I guess the follow-up would be if they come to, say, the LIM website, if you're a startup brand, of which we have a lot, is there any criteria you look for before you offer LIM students? And if so, what would that be?
Yeah, we're actually sort of in the process of revising that right now. So again, I would kind of say, if someone is interested, I think I put my email in the chat. I would say definitely contact me directly because we're in the process of revising that, again, just because of everything that's been happening with COVID. And so there's, trying to kind of put more measures in place essentially right now to protect everyone, really. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And we also had a question from Egypt. Is there a place where interns from one company can link with interns from other companies? It would be nice to broaden horizons and make connections with other companies as well. So I guess Melissa should answer that question, or Erica.
What are we doing, Melissa?
You should answer it.
Okay.
Erica, you should answer it.
Okay, so our brand new student mingle, which launched today. So thank you for adding that question. It really is a place where all the students can connect with all of Fashion Mingle's members, and Fashion Mingle's members can connect with students and offer internships, jobs. We have a weekly newsletter that we're putting out. And it's crazy because I remember discussing this a year ago, this plan, because I was like, I'm doing an internship and LIM offers it this way. I wish there was a way that we could kind of get students to connect with more businesses and things like that. And now a year later, it's finally launched. So,
that's a great idea.
Well, what we're trying to do, we started a couple of years ago with a survey that we were sending out to students at, mostly the New York area universities that had fashion programs, and we wanted to understand what their what kind of internships they needed from their perspective of, like what would make, so that our members could understand what type of flexibility students need to have an internship. Because what I was sad to see is, like, we would, find interns, that were, they were working at Starbucks or Best Buy. And I'm like, you're in New York City, and, how can you not find a paid internship, if you really need one? It seems like there should be one. And then talking to our members, what I realized is that they didn't understand how to get an intern. And it is something you have to figure out if you've never done it before. So we started talking last year about how we could solve that problem, and Student Mingle is the result. And so the first phase of it is, we've had students joining Fashion Mingle for years. So, we already have a database full of them. But now we're actually going to have a way for them to connect with each other. So they can have their own profile page that's specifically designed to show all about them. Just like the Fashion Mingle profile, you can put your skills on it, what you're looking for, your website, your social media links, your, PR stuff and all that. And for students, we've customized it for what a student needs, and also like a list of what to hire them for, so that, as our members start looking through, they can actually see, I need someone with that skill, so that's someone to reach out to. And then there's a student forum where they can ask each other questions. They can post questions. They can, and then our members will be able to post jobs and, volunteer needs and stuff like that. And so the first step of it is to get the students connected with each other so they can start networking, because our survey did determine that the students want to network with other students. So that's why we have it set up that way. And then the second phase is to get our members to learn more about how to have a successful internship program. And we're willing to do some hand holding and share, what we do to, help you get it started. And then we'll have you be able to post your internship so that the students can apply. And then the third phase will actually be where we're connecting the students for actual jobs. So, so this, and of course, it's not just New York City, it's anywhere, because we are a global platform. And then, once we get all that, it'll take a while. We're very slow at the development side, but we will be moving forward with this. And then eventually it'll turn into the members being able to post jobs and members applying for those jobs. So we do a lot of matching right now, just like informally. But we want to make it to where it's more, where you have control over it and you can post it yourself.
To Melissa's point, even though the job portal isn't set up yet, obviously Beth and I have a weekly newsletter that we put out to all the students. So if you're a brand that needs interns or you're trying to hire them, just email us and we'll put it in the newsletter and put it on our social media and everything like that. We'll do it informally right now until we can get the job portal finished.
And Dee, it seems like you're in need of some interns. We're happy.
I'm in need of a lot of interns. Hey. So I'm gonna contact Eurydice.
I was just gonna say, yes, I would love to I would love to connect with anybody as well that's looking for interns. We have a lot of students that are hungry for internships.
Yeah. And it's possible to do virtual. So even if you're not in New York City, an LIM student can do an internship for anybody in the world, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll take them from any planet, any nation. I welcome everybody.
Yeah. So all my fellow LIM people, interning for Fashion Mingle or for Dee, I recommend. I've worked with both. So.
Oh, thank you, Erica.
Yeah, Erica, she actually you're working for LIM in the marketing department, right?
I am. I'm lucky enough that they've kept me on despite having graduated. It's a tough, yeah. But it's really nice. I get like firsthand experience there. It's really easygoing. And it's just like a fun thing to do. And I kind of apply the skills to both Fashion Mingle, and then things I learn at Fashion Mingle, I apply to LIM. So it's kind of like a
and Erica has just moved into her apartment. She moved to Boston. Has an apartment, so she is officially looking for a full-time job in marketing in Boston. So if anybody knows anybody, please can help us find Erica the job of her dreams.
I'll work remotely. I'm doing it now. So.
She does work great remotely. She's wonderful, but it is really hard right now for anybody to find jobs. So anyway, Erica, why don't you? I know that you just put together the dates for fall internships. So, like Andrea said, if you need an internship, you'd like to try it. You need to plan for the fall semester, not right now. So Erica, can you tell give everybody like the deadlines that we've picked?
So for fall of 2020, which is September through December, and we will start taking people on in August too, if they really want to start early. The application deadline for that's going to be August 28th, and we will give you our decision by September 4th. And these dates are on fashionmingle.net/internships. You can see kind of all the different internships that we're offering. You can see directly where to apply. It links right to that. So it's very easy. And it usually goes to me. So I am usually in contact with people who apply within a day or two. So it's pretty quick turnaround.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. It was a great panel. Really, just can't say enough wonderful things about this LIM internship program. We've had so many wonderful interns, and Erica and Stephanie have just been a joy to work with. And so you guys are doing a great job over at LIM, teaching the students what they need to know to get out into their world.
Wonderful. We'd love to hear that. And can I just give a shout out, Melissa, to you next week? We have a program called LIM 2020, and Melissa is actually going to be our guest speaker next week. So we're excited to have her and share her knowledge with all of our 2020 graduates and more. So thank you.
So great.
And Andrea, do you want to talk?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for the invitation to be part of this panel today. But I'd also like to shout out the Fashion and Sustainability Summit 2020 series, 20 weeks of digging into sustainable solutions so brands can be leaders in climate change. But Melissa, you're on a marketing one. Next week, we're talking about reducing your carbon emissions across your transport and global supply chain. And we have, so if you visit fashiondex.com/series, plus I have about a dozen who've emailed me in the last 2 weeks, sustainability minor students looking for internships that I'm trying to also help specifically place in sustainability, remote and on-ground internships. So if you need any students for that, give me a buzz. As well, I do know that there are a lot of colleges with STEM students looking for interns to join corporations and help them measure the company's footprint and make plans to reduce it. And it's something out of the New York City Mayor's Office of Sustainability, but I was emailed recently to help find companies for that. So if you need that, reach out.
Wonderful. And then also I just want to give a plug for something that Fashion Mingle is doing in like a month, 5 weeks. We are working with Dee on Times Square Fashion Week. I'm excited. So Dee is like, Dee, why don't you tell, because this is your baby, so tell us what's happening for Times Square Fashion Week.
Yeah, sure. So I live in New Jersey, but I'm always in the city or was in the city pre-COVID. And I always used to be obsessed with the red, you know, with the stairs, with Times Square, with the whole, I had a vision. I was like, why is it that Fashion Week has never been done in the heart of Times Square? Like that always kind of spinned in my head. And, you know, we do work with all the billboards in Times Square. We do a lot of different things. So last year we did a whole live shoot in the middle of Times Square in front of the red stairs. We did this whole thing. And then, you know, we partnered with Fashion Mingle to do the cover girl, which was adjacent to Times Square. We did this huge thing. It was fun, successful. So this year, and it is a miracle from the Lord that we were even able to get a permit due to friends of mine. They gave us a permit to actually do an actual event in Times Square. We can't make it, we can't tell everybody the date or anything because due to COVID, we can't attract crowds.
Oh.
So it's a press related event only. So you could contact Melissa if you are a designer, a sponsor, if you're watching this, or if you want to volunteer or be an intern, contact Erica or Melissa or Beth. But we are excited because we're going to be able to do some live stream and live photo shoots, live lookbook shoots. We have a whole new way of envisioning Fashion Week. So that's why it's called Times Square Fashion Week.
Yeah, and you know the purpose of this, you know, with a Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer is co-hosting the event with us, and Times Square Alliance will be there, and it's also a fundraiser for City Harvest. So you know we are reimagining how we can get designers the content they need, because during Fashion Week, that's a really important time for designers to get the content for their PR and their lookbooks and all of that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to just find some ways we could do it that would be really fun and also give them you know, an experience. And so we'll be having studio shoots with designers in August that are all COVID compliant. You know, we've got the you know, there's different COVID compliant certifications you can get, and so our team will all be certified, and so you can the designers can get their lookbook shoots done in a studio in New York City, or if they're somewhere else, they can get it done and they can send it to us, and then we will be putting those lookbook pictures, and we even can do a private runway show. So if you want the experience of your collection going down a runway, we can actually even do that in the studio. And then that's going to be up on the big Times Square billboards. So it's going to be like a fashion show on the Times Square billboards, which we will film for you, and so you can have that for all of your PR. And then we're going to have live photo shoots, so you can bring a small number of models to Times Square, and we will do photo shoots beneath your billboards. So we're doing just lots of different things. And then we also have these, Dee is like super plugged in to all these amazing digital advertising opportunities where we've gotten special pricing. So, you know, if you want to, you know, blast out your website all over the world, there's really great prices to get that done. And you can also run 15-second commercials across streaming services. So we've got a lot of fun things going on. You know, you can reach out to me or Dee to get the decks. We're getting the website finished. Hopefully the website will be done next week where you can go and get more information.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Bye.